Alice loved the woods. Every day she walked the familiar paths. The trees were her friends, the birds sang to her. Today was no different. Alice skipped along, humming a happy tune. She knew these woods like the back of her hand, or so she thought. Today something was different. A new path beckoned, winding deeper into the woods. Alice hesitated for a moment. Then curiosity bubbled up inside her. The new path was exciting. The trees grew closer together, their branches intertwining overhead. The sunlight struggled to reach the forest floor. Alice ventured deeper, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. Strange new birds called out, their voices unfamiliar and a little bit scary. The air grew still and heavy. Gone was the familiar, comforting atmosphere of the woods she knew. A strange feeling crept over Alice. She wasn't sure she liked it, but Alice was brave. She told herself she would just go a little further, just a little peek. What could possibly go wrong? A low growl froze Alice in her tracks. She had been walking through the forest, enjoying the serene beauty of nature, when the sound shattered the tranquility. It seemed to come from the very heart of the forest, deep and menacing. The trees around her seemed to close in, their shadows growing darker and more foreboding. Every hair on her neck stood on end. She could feel the primal fear coursing through her veins, an instinctual response to the unseen threat. Slowly, Alice turned towards the sound. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing in her ears like a drum. There, in a clearing bathed in a shaft of sunlight, stood the biggest lion she had ever seen. Its golden fur shimmered, catching the light in a way that made it look almost ethereal. Sharp teeth gleamed in its mouth, each one looking like a deadly weapon. The lion's powerful jaws could crush bones with ease. But it was the lion's eyes that truly terrified Alice. They were not just the eyes of a predator, but of a king surveying his domain. They were hungry eyes, fixed on her with an intensity that made her blood run cold. She felt like a mouse caught in the gaze of a hawk. The lion let out another roar, this time louder, shaking the very ground beneath her feet. The sound reverberated through the forest, sending birds flying from the trees. Alice knew in that instant that she was in terrible danger. Her mind raced, searching for a way to escape the imminent threat that loomed before her. Section 4. Flight and Pursuit. Alice didn't hesitate. She knew that her only chance of survival was to keep moving, to stay ahead of the danger that pursued her. She turned and ran faster than she had ever run before. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat a reminder of the stakes. Branches whipped at her face and her breath came in ragged gasps. The forest seemed to close in around her, every shadow a potential threat, but she didn't dare slow down. The fear of what was behind her was greater than the pain and exhaustion she felt. The lion's roars echoed behind her, closer now. Each roar sent a shiver down her spine, urging her to push her limits. Alice could hear the pounding of its paws on the forest floor, getting closer with every stride. The sound was a constant reminder of the predator's relentless pursuit. She risked a glance back over her shoulder. The sight of the lion, its eyes locked onto her, filled her with a renewed sense of urgency. The lion was gaining on her, its powerful legs propelling it forward with incredible speed. It moved with a grace and power that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. Fear lent wings to her feet. She felt as if she was flying over the forest floor, her feet barely touching the ground. Alice dodged between trees, her small size an advantage in the dense undergrowth. She weaved through the forest, hoping to lose the lion in the maze of trees. She could hear the lion crashing through the foliage behind her, frustrated but relentless. Its growls grew louder, a testament to its determination to catch her. Section 5. A lesson learned. Just when Alice thought she could run no more, the trees began to thin. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing the fear that had driven her this far. She could feel the cool air of the open space ahead, a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere of the dense forest. She burst out of the woods and onto the familiar path, the safety of the open space before her. The sunlight felt warm and reassuring on her skin, a welcome change from the dark, shadowy woods she had just escaped. She risked another look back, her eyes scanning the tree line for any sign of movement. Her breath was still ragged, and her legs felt like they could give out at any moment. The lion had stopped at the edge of the trees. Its golden eyes watched her intently, but it made no move to follow. It seemed to understand the boundary between the wild and the familiar. It stood there for a moment, its sides heaving, a low growl rumbling in its chest. The sound was a reminder of the danger she had narrowly escaped. Then, slowly it turned and melted back into the shadows of the woods. The forest seemed to swallow it whole, as if it had never been there. Alice collapsed on the path, her chest heaving. She could feel the adrenaline slowly leaving her body, replaced by a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. She had never been so scared in her life. The memory of the lion's eyes would haunt her for a long time. As she sat there, catching her breath, she made a promise to herself. She would be more careful, more aware of her surroundings. The forest was beautiful, but it was also wild and unpredictable. She would never venture that deep into the woods again. The heart of the forest was a place of mystery and danger, not meant for the unprepared. The familiar paths were safe. They were well-trodden and predictable, offering a sense of security that the deeper woods could not. The familiar paths were enough. They held their own beauty and charm, without the lurking dangers of the unknown. The heart of the woods held secrets that were not meant for little girls. It was a place of shadows and whispers, where the line between reality and imagination blurred.